From April to July of 1997, a psychopathic killer went on a crime spree that claimed the lives of 5 victims before he took his own life. With a pistol he stole from his first victim, this monster traveled through several states, leaving bodies in his wake. The killer used the gun, screwdrivers, hacksaws, and even a hammer to kill. The murder that got the most attention was the execution of an Italian fashion designer, Andrew Cunanan, the Versace killer. Andrew Cunanan was born on August 31st, 1969 in National City, California. His father, Dungao Cunanan, and his mother, Marianne Shilatsi, had 4 children. When he was born, his father was away with the Navy. Cunanan was known as a smart and outgoing boy, but there were negative traits that began showing up when he was a teenager. He was well known to be a liar and fabricated stories about himself and his family. The identity crisis went further as he began to find ways to alter his appearance. While in high school, Cunanan came out as gay, but not to his family, and began seeing rich older men. After graduating high school in 1987, Andrew enrolled at UC San Diego to study American history. A year into his studies, his father abandoned the family to avoid prosecution for embezzlement and moved to the Philippines. This led to Andrew living a more open lifestyle, which caused disagreements with his religious mother. Their fights grew violent, and during one argument, he even dislocated her shoulder when he slammed her against a wall. When his father left, Andrew seemed to unravel, eventually dropping out of UC San Diego and moving in with a high school friend and her boyfriend in the Castro district of San Francisco. In San Francisco, Cunanan used a variety of aliases as he continued meeting with rich older men who supported him financially. He also made money selling drugs. Some reports say that Andrew met world-renowned fashion designer Gianni Versace in 1990 while the man was in San Francisco for an opera. It should be noted that Versace's family say that this meeting never happened. During this time, he also met others who would eventually suffer at his hands. In 1995, he met a man named David Madson in a San Francisco bar. Madson was an architect from Minneapolis, and the two had a long-distance relationship. Cunanan would tell others that David was the love of his life, but the feeling was not reciprocated. Madson would soon split up with Cunanan, saying that something was off with him. Something horrible lurked just beneath the surface. After the breakup, Andrew began to spiral out of control. His credit cards were maxed out, and he was once again selling drugs. His drug use increased, and he was known to regularly consume methamphetamine, painkillers, and alcohol. Friends began distancing themselves from Cunanan, which accelerated his descent into violent fantasies. In April of 1997, Andrew had his plans ready for revenge against the world and those who had turned their back on him. He told people that he was traveling to Minneapolis to take care of some business with a friend named Jeffrey Trail and would be staying with David Madson. During this trip, Cunanan would transition from liar and drug addict to psychopathic killer. On April 26, 1997, Andrew spent the night at Jeffrey Trail's apartment while he was out of town with his boyfriend. When they returned, their house guest was gone, along with a Taurus PT-100 40-caliber pistol that Trail owned. Cunanan called and told Jeffrey to come pick up the gun from Madson's apartment where he was. When the 28-year-old arrived, Cunanan beat him to death with a hammer, then rolled him up in a rug and stashed him behind a couch. Andrew and Madson stayed in the apartment for 2 days with the dead body. Neighbors reported seeing them together, but it seems that Madson was a hostage as he was not allowed to go to work. On April 29th, coworkers came to check on him and found the body of Jeffrey Trail. Initially, Madson was considered a suspect in the murder, but on May 3rd, the 33-year-old's body was found shot to death on the shore of Rush Lake in Minnesota. Upon examination, it was determined that he had been shot with a .40-caliber pistol. The same day that Madson's body was discovered, Cunanan was on the hunt for his next victim. The murder of 72-year-old Lee Miglin was the most brutal that the killer would commit. Miglin was bound and his head was wrapped in duct tape. Once he was defenseless, Cunanan stabbed him nearly 24 times with a screwdriver before cutting his throat with a hacksaw. While Miglin's family claim he was selected at random, the level of violence indicates a possible personal motive. Andrew had abandoned the Jeep that he stole from Madson and taken Miglin's Lexus. The Lexus had a car phone which police were able to track his movements with when the phone was in use, and on May 9th it would point to the next location of Cunanan's murder spree, Point Township, New Jersey. 45-year-old William Reese was a caretaker at a cemetery. When he failed to come home for dinner, his wife went to see what he was up to. She found him dead in his office with a gunshot wound to the head. Once again, Cunanan has used Trail's stolen pistol. The motive for this murder is believed to be no more than a means to steal the caretaker's truck, which the killer used to drive to Florida. While in Florida, the monster made no effort to hide his identity, despite being on the FBI's top 10 most wanted list. He used his real name to pawn items in order to raise cash for a hotel. After 2 months, Cunanan was out of money and checked out of the hotel on July 14th. The next day, he committed his most infamous murder. In the mid-morning of July 15th, Gianni Versace was getting home from an errand. Cunanan approached him from behind and shot him once in the back of the head and once in the cheek. A witness saw the shooting and tried to catch Cunanan, but lost him in a parking garage. Shortly after 9 a.m., Versace was pronounced dead at the hospital. When police arrived to search the area of the crime scene, they found the truck that Andrew had stolen from William Reese. Inside, they found Cunanan's belongings and newspaper clippings from his previous murders. Without a vehicle and with more heat than ever from law enforcement, the killer could feel the noose tightening around his throat. Rather than going to prison, Cunanan took his own way out. On July 23, 1997, a gunshot was heard from a houseboat docked by Miami Beach. When police arrived, they found Andrew Cunanan's body. He had shot himself in the head with the same stolen pistol he had used on 3 of his victims. His body was cremated, and his ashes were interred at the Holy Cross Cemetery in San Diego.